All right, hello YouTube. Welcome back to Eric Reviews YouTube channel. And today's video, we're gonna be talking about everything that the Percy Jackson show so far has either made very questionable decisions or not gotten right, in my personal opinion. And so I want to point out before I get into this will be a very critical analysis of the first two when it comes to some of the things I didn't like about the show. But I want to point out that I do so far enjoy the show. I would rate it about a 7 out of 10, leaning towards maybe an 8, just kind of in that middle part where, you know, I'm leaning good, but it's still got a lot of issues that I want to talk about in today's video. So also, if you have not seen the good section that I did already, I would check that video out as well, as it talks about some of the things I really liked about it, just to kind of balance out kind of my disagreements with the way the show has done certain things so far. So right off the bat, I think the first major part, because I think it's the biggest problem so far with the show, is I think we have not developed a lot of our supporting characters at all, right? So when I talk about supporting characters, I mean mainly Annabeth and Grover, because as the series goes forward, we're going to be going with basically 3 main characters with Percy, Grover, and Annabeth. At the end of episode 2, we've kind of established that, right? Like, those are kind of our main 3 characters going forward. And the problem is we really don't have any development for any of those characters outside of Percy. And when I talked about some of the good stuff, Percy is definitely in that. But the negatives are, well, Annabeth. Annabeth has come off as a very unlikable character for me specifically so far. We haven't seen that other side of Annabeth where she's someone that can be very caring, kind, understanding. We haven't really seen that side of Annabeth so far. I mean, if you even think about a lot of the book changes that have been made so far, a lot of them have been to the detriment of the characters of Grover and Annabeth. Annabeth is a character that we see in the books is someone that is a guiding force for Percy, someone that Percy can confide in and not being a half-blood, and Annabeth being this understanding person. She is someone that seems like she is someone that introduces the new recruits a lot. It seems very apparent in the book, and that's something that Percy picks up on. But in the show, her first introduction is, you know, Percy's like knocked out, going in and out of consciousness, and he like sees her. But again, it's not important because he doesn't really remember her, right? And so the first introduction that Percy and Annabeth really have is Percy has just gotten bullied. He's made this powerful explosion happen, or it's not really the same as it is in the book, but he performs part of his powers. And Annabeth just walks into the scene basically saying that she stalks Percy and that she's recruiting him for Capture the Flag. So it's already a jarring introduction into her character. And then you go forward, and the only development we have for her character is through Luke. And so that's already not good, because you're only having the only interesting part of Annabeth's character so far coming from another person, which doesn't really get built upon too much in this episode, or episode 2 specifically. You then have her really not like helping Percy at all, not explaining anything to Percy, almost rude to him. And then you see, after all this is finished and Percy's done his role, Annabeth then proceeds to push him into the lake to figure out what his powers are, or because she sees something. Like, it just comes off as Annabeth being a not nice person the entire time she's on screen. Nothing about her is likable to me. And what's insane to me is that she is my favorite character in the book, and they've completely taken out all of the parts that balance those parts, right? Like, yes, Annabeth in the book, especially early on, can be this like wall to Percy where she's not letting him in, not letting him try and figure out what's going on. But she also has that other side of her, right? Like, it's a very counterbalanced thing where she has actual conflicts in her character, and we just haven't seen that so far. So for me, what I came out of episode 2 going is, I don't like Annabeth. Until the show, hopefully it's going to give her more screen time, which it definitely will, and we get more with the character, I'm just kind of not with this character at all right now. And so Grover, that kind of leads into Grover as well, because he's the other side character right now that's struggling so much, is that they've taken all of the interesting parts of Grover's character, in my opinion, in the book, and they've kind of made Grover a walking plot device. For the most part, all Grover is in episode 1 and 2 is a plot device. So in episode 2, he is used to more or less get Percy to go on this adventure through a very unneeded plot. They basically took Grover's plot of him trying to become a searcher, or someone that goes and finds these half-bloods and brings them back to camp to get that license to do that. They took that plot and replaced it with this plot that Grover believes that Sally is not dead. And so this plot goes on, but it's not needed, because here's the thing. when we get Percy later on and he doesn't want to go on this journey, which again, I talked about this with my friend. It's like, I can see why the showrunners did it. I can also see why I don't maybe like it as much as just saying that Percy would have done it because that's the person he is. I don't really have a big problem with that whole plot point. The plot point I have a problem with is when Percy refuses to go, Chiron doesn't bring this up. That, yeah, he knows that Sally is probably not dead and that Percy could go get her. Percy has to go to the underworld regardless with this journey. Why not just introduce that there? Why have Grover be this plot device where we could have Grover actually having meaningful development of his character like we see in the book, and it's very vital to his character. And my friend Logan did suggest maybe that they're just hiding that plot for a little bit later, develop it later on, and I hope that's the case, right? Because Grover so far, even in episode 1, we saw a little bit here and there of like his personality and his maybe some of his relationship with Percy, but then they do things like he betrays Percy. And that's just something I don't see with the character of Grover. It's not the same character of Grover in the book, or even close to it, because Grover wouldn't do that. And it's like, yes, it's reasonable, and we see why he would do something like that in the show, and it kind of maybe works a bit better in the show than it would in the book. But the problem is, it's just like, Grover doesn't have any real characteristics so far. He's not an interesting character. There's not much there. Every time he's on screen, it's him spouting exposition, it almost feels like. And so, Grover, I hope we get more with him in the next episode, because he definitely needs help as well. And so, outside of like those two major characters kind of struggling along here, I have found that at times the pacing is just way too quickly in these first 2 episodes. It really feels like they needed more episodes for this first season. Now, maybe that's just they're, again, speeding towards getting to the main conflict, which could be possible. I guess I couldn't blame them if they were doing that, but I think the way they got there stumbled at times. I think they missed a lot of opportunities. I think notably, if you're a book reader, seeing the fates would have been really cool. We don't see that in the show at all. It's a completely different plot line that ends up happening in the book, which I won't explain. If you guys want to know kind of more on that, I would check out my longer review. We talk about this in depth. I think that was a miss, you know, not having the Hellhound appear during Percy's claiming was another kind of missed opportunity. But yeah, so I think, and then again, I look at some of the book changes they've made so far and how they've excluded certain plot lines so far. I've not really enjoyed, given that you have the alternative and the alternative is better than what we're getting right now. I don't know, right? It's harder to judge because you don't know if Rick is going to, or if Disney is going to change it to where we get those plots later. I'm just not sure, right? And I think it leaves me with a lot of question marks going forward because they haven't taken the time to really establish all of our characters. They've only done it for Percy. Like, Percy is really the only character of the main 3 that feels like he has a lot of development. He's actually written well character. And so all that works. And something I didn't mention in the good section, I think the comedy of the show works a lot of the time. Some of the times I feel like it's kind of goofy and I don't really know if it fits in at times, but I think for the most part they got the comedy element down for this show personally. But yeah, thank you guys all for watching. If you guys have anything else you think you didn't really like in this show, which there probably is more, I didn't want to, you know, fully go out into this, but I kind of talked about a lot of the main ones for me personally, but I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.